Principle number one, fallibility. So it means we can't reach perfection. It means there's always flaws in our knowledge. It means even when we sort of, let's say we get lucky and we have something that's right, and suppose a portion of it doesn't have flaws, we wouldn't even know that we reached that state. Because we don't have a method of guaranteeing that we don't have a flaw somewhere. Because the only way you know you have a flaw is when you're in a future state and you're looking in the past saying, oh, look at that flaw we saw. But in the moment, in the present, you didn't have the knowledge to even see it yet. It's a matter of, you hear these two phrases. I know what I don't know. And then there's I don't even know what I don't know. Mm-hmm. Two levels. And, when you're a child, you reach the first level of, oh, there's stuff I don't know, or there's stuff my parents don't know. And then there's the person themselves doesn't even know what they're not aware of. And I think that if you think of two spheres or three spheres, what I know I don't know, and then a third one, what I don't know. The third one is the biggest one. At least where we are today, maybe a million years in the future is different. But according to David Deutsch, the way he explains it, we're always at the beginning of infinity. Mm-hmm. So that third sphere keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, if I may make a connection between this type of knowledge and the religious knowledge, and
yes, please do that. Yes,
how that would then connect, because if you're thinking about having God as the source of your knowledge, then this means that you have gone to the head, to the wellspring of where this whole thing comes from. And so when religious people or religious texts are making pronouncements of anything, whether it's about the world, whether about how we're supposed to live our lives, they are making a claim that since this is coming from God, it's infallible. And so that infallibility, that rigidity that's going to result from this is exactly the antithesis of what you just mentioned about being at the beginning of infinity at all times. Because if you already have that knowledge, then you're not supposed to progress any further.
This has some symptoms. Mm-hmm. There's some symptoms that come along with this belief you're describing. For one thing, you think you already have the answers, so you're not searching for answers.
Yeah.
And since you already think you have the answers, you must assume your questions that you're asking are also the correct ones.
Yeah. I can actually bring a quote that's attributed to Umar ibn Khattab, the caliph. Although it's probably apocryphal, but it actually does convey the spirit of what's happening here. So supposedly when Omar's envoys occupied Egypt and they reached the remnants of Alexandria's big public library, they sent to him, what are we to do with these books? He said, if they coincide with what we have, then it means that they are useless. If they disagree with what we have, then they are harmful. So this means that we're not going to be expanding the knowledge beyond that. And supposedly he ordered the remnants to be disposed of.
And here's the problem with that, or a problem with it. And maybe this will come up in the next point. I don't know. It's just popping up in my head now. When you have a scenario where you think your knowledge is like the perfect knowledge, what it means is, well, some of that knowledge is good and there's some flaws, and whatever flaws there are will be preserved and cannot be improved on. Where in the other scenario where we say, look, all our knowledge is already flawed. We know it's flawed. We're just trying to improve on our current knowledge. And we know we're going to arrive at another set of knowledge that is still flawed, but it's less flawed than before. We keep getting better. We are progressing. Mm-hmm. So whatever evils we have today won't be the same evils as tomorrow. It'll be less evil tomorrow.
Yeah. And that actually connects with the concept of doubt, which scares the hell out of many believers. Some belief systems actually did manage to embrace it in a way. So you can see some Christians that would say that doubt is a way to actually reaffirm your knowledge and so on. But
Yeah. The
eventually,
Islamic way, it says doubt is bad.
if
Is
you're
that all
doubting,
of it? All the factions, or is there any variation of Islam or was there ever a point in history where that wasn't a settled question yet?
um, I'm not going to pretend to have encompassed that history, but I think the Mu'tazilites, who were a little bit more rational in their approach to religion, they might have valued doubts in some way.
Did they argue it from from the Quran or from the Hadith at least?
They based everything that they had on the Quran. They rejected some ideas that might have been less rational, but at the same time they ended
Well,
up.
then let me just ask you about the Quran then. Is it more than one place, or is it a ton of places where it says doubt is bad?
Well, I can actually come up with a story that might that's from the Quran. That might show that this conception, the Islamic conception of doubt, is not really as bad as Muslims conceive of it. So there's a story of Abraham, who is supposed to be one of the people who showed or exhibited a form of unwavering belief. He was about to kill his son. And yet, there is this passage that quotes him doubting God while talking to God. So, in a way, asking him, "Show me so that my heart is more secure." Or
So maybe
more.
it sounds like whoever made the Quran, wrote it, whatever, recognized there needs to be some version of doubt God, but then in general shat on it.
Well, probably the people who wrote the Quran, whoever they are not the same people who eventually elaborated on this and created the Islamic doctrine that is against doubt to begin with. You have.
Yeah, I mean, what I've been learning recently is a lot of the things that I thought is central to Islam, in the sense that it started with it, were things that actually were questions not settled till centuries later.
Absolutely, the Quran is a very ambiguous text.
Like for example, the issue of the last prophet.
Yeah,
That I heard wasn't a settled question, and Shi'is and Sunnis were disagreeing about it for centuries, and today they agree it's a settled question.
if you open any book on exegesis, interpretation, commentary on the Quran, almost on all pages you will see that the people of the learned people have disagreed on this issue. That's almost on every single page. So there is no such thing as a
settled question.
Yeah. So you have all sorts of interpretations for
Well,
all.
aren't they at least settled that there's a God named Allah?
Well, I guess, but even then, that
The
God,
features of Allah they don't agree on, right?
yeah, the features. So
Which means they're not agreeing.
The
It's a
Mu'tazilites
different thing if you change out features.
Yeah. So there was a huge debate and even fighting about whether God is an entity that has features or not, like a hand, a
Yeah.
leg, and so
Yeah.
on. So it's